pull your chair a little closer tonight. Not because what I am about to say is loud, but because it is quiet, and the quiet things are the ones we tend to miss. If I could keep only 7 things from more than 2 decades of working with older adults, from all the kitchens I have sat in, all the hands I have held, all the mornings I have watched begin, and had to give the rest away, these 7 morning rituals are what I would keep. Everything else I have learned, I could let go of. These, I could not. I want to tell you something before we begin. The second ritual on this list took me nearly a decade to learn, not to hear about. I had heard about it since my first year in this work. I mean to truly learn it, to understand why it matters more than almost anything else you can do for your body and your spirit after 60. There is a reason it sits where it sits, and by the time we arrive there together, I believe you will feel why. There will be no fireworks in this letter tonight, no shouting, no promises that a single morning will change your life. Only this, 7 small, honest rituals that I have watched change more lives than any pill I have ever seen prescribed. If you give me the next little while of your evening, I will give you the distilled truth of 20 years, spoken the way I would speak it to my own father, if he were still here to listen. And I would speak it slowly, because he would deserve that, and so do you. You do not know me yet, and that is fair. So let me tell you plainly who I am and who I am not. I am not a doctor. I have never claimed to be. What I am is a man who has spent more than 20 years of his working life beside older adults, in their homes, in their hospital rooms, in their gardens, in the long, slow afternoons of their retirement. I have sat at more kitchen tables than I could count, in small towns and big cities, and I have listened. Mostly I have listened. In those years I noticed something. The seniors who were aging with the most grace, the most energy, the most clarity of mind, they were not the ones with the fanciest medicine cabinets. They were not the wealthy ones, or the ones who had escaped every illness. They were the ones with rituals, small ones, morning ones, rituals so ordinary that at first I almost missed them entirely. And here is what makes me feel steady in telling you this. The researchers eventually caught up to what those kitchen tables were teaching me. In the last 2 decades, the National Institute on Aging, the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, and the Cleveland Clinic have all quietly published finding after finding that confirmed what those older men and women already knew, that the way you spend the first hour of your day after 60 is one of the strongest predictors of how well and how long you will live. Not the only one, but one of the strongest. I did not build these rituals from a book. I built them from a life spent watching, and then the books, thank goodness, agreed. So when I tell you what I am about to tell you, please understand, I am not selling you anything. I am not asking you to buy anything, chew anything, or believe anything I have not seen with my own eyes. I am simply passing along what 20 years of mornings have taught me. That is all. That is everything. I want to name something before we go one step further, because if I do not name it, it will sit between us the whole night, and you will not be able to hear me clearly. You are worried. You may not have said the word out loud today, or this week, or this year, but I have sat across from that worry 1,000 times, so I know its shape. You are worried that your body is beginning to slip away from you a little faster than you expected. You are worried that your mornings feel heavier than they used to, that the stairs take longer, that your memory has small holes in it now, that your energy has a floor beneath it that you cannot seem to climb out of. And underneath all of that, there is one worry that almost no one says aloud, so I will say it for you. You are worried that it might be too late, that whatever ground you have lost for good, that the version of yourself you remember, the one with the clear morning mind and the willing body, is behind you now and cannot be walked back to. I want you to hear me on this before I say anything else. It is not too late. I have watched men and women in their 70s, their 80s, their 90s begin small morning rituals and rebuild pieces of themselves they had written off entirely. It is never too late, not while there is still a morning ahead of you. And there is a morning ahead of you. There is one waiting for you tomorrow. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing, so set the worry down for a little while. It has done its job. It brought you here. Now let me carry it for the rest of the evening, and let us walk into these 7 rituals together. Ritual 1. Wake with light, not with alarm. Here is the principle in one plain sentence. The first thing your eyes should meet in the morning is natural daylight, not the shrill sound of a machine. Why does the body need this? Because inside each of us there is an old, patient clock. Researchers call it the circadian rhythm, and that clock is set by light. When morning light enters your eyes, even through a window, it tells your brain that the day has begun. It releases a small, clean wave of cortisol, the kind you want, the kind that lifts you upright. It quiets the sleep hormones. It steadies your mood for the hours to come. When we wake instead to a jangling alarm, in a dark room our bodies are jolted without being informed, and the whole day tilts a little off-center from that moment forward. I think of Margaret Ellery, 71. a retired schoolteacher from a small town outside Pittsburgh, who told me she had not opened her bedroom curtains before breakfast in 15 years. 15 years of dim rooms and gray moods. She began drawing the curtains as the first act of every morning. That was the whole of the change. Within 3 weeks, she said her mornings felt as if someone had turned the color back on. I believed her. So did her doctor. You do not need to buy anything for this. You do not need a sunrise lamp, though those help in the darkest months. You need only a window and the small willingness to open a curtain before you do anything else. Sit near that light for a few minutes. Let your eyes have it. Here is the aphorism worth writing down if you keep such a list. The day begins where the light lands. Ritual 2. Drink water before you drink anything else. This is the one that took me 10 years to truly learn, and I want to give it the space it deserves. The principle is this. After 6 or 7 or 8 hours without a sip of anything, your body is quietly dehydrated. And dehydration in older adults does more damage than almost anyone realizes. It thickens the blood, which strains the heart. It slows the brain, which we then mistake for age. It stiffens the joints, which we then mistake for arthritis. It sinks the mood, which we then mistake for sadness. A glass of plain room temperature water, not cold. Cold is a shock to an older system. Taken slowly, before coffee, before tea, before anything else, is one of the most quietly powerful acts of self-care available to a person over 60. Researchers at the National Institute on Aging have observed for years that mild chronic dehydration in older adults is one of the most underdiagnosed contributors to fatigue and confusion. It is not glamorous, it is not expensive, it is a glass of water, and it is, in my honest opinion, worth more than any supplement on any shelf. I remember a man named Harold Beckman, 78, a former postal worker from Sacramento, who had been told by 3 doctors that his afternoon dizziness was simply part of getting older. His daughter asked me, privately, if there was anything he might try before accepting that verdict. I asked her one question: does he drink water in the morning? She said her father had drunk coffee first, and only coffee, for 50 years. We changed one thing: one glass of water taken slowly before the coffee. His dizziness eased within a month. I am not telling you it will solve everything for everyone. One person's story is not a promise, but it is a story worth hearing. The aphorism, and I mean this one: the body wakes in a desert. Meet it with water. Ritual 3. Move gently before you sit heavily. The principle in one sentence: your body wants to be reminded in the first waking minutes that it is still yours to use. Not a workout, not a punishment, a reminder. What the body needs is very simple after 60. Circulation to the joints, blood to the muscles, oxygen to the brain, and the way we give it those things is with slow, deliberate movement in the first 10 minutes of the day. Not the treadmill, not the gym. 10 minutes of gentle stretching beside your bed, rolling the shoulders, rising onto your toes and back down, twisting slowly at the waist, reaching upward with both arms as if you were taking a book down from a high shelf, walking if you can for a few slow minutes around the house. The Mayo Clinic has published research suggesting that older adults who move gently within the first 30 minutes of waking have measurably better balance, better joint mobility, and fewer falls throughout the year than those who do not. Falls, as you and I both know, are the single greatest threat to independence after 70. This ritual is not about vanity. It is about staying in your own home on your own 2 feet for as many years as possible. I think of Doris Whitcomb, 82, a former florist from Charleston, who began doing 5 minutes of what she called her morning waking, a sequence of slow reaches and gentle bends beside her bed. After a small fall the previous year had frightened her. A year later she had not fallen again, not once. She told me, and I will remember this always, I did not know my body was waiting to be asked. Neither had I until I watched enough people ask the aphorism. A body that is asked answers. Ritual 4. Eat as though the morning meal decides the day. The principle: what you put into your body in the first hour of eating sets the chemistry for the next 12. And in older adults, that chemistry matters more, not less. What the body needs at breakfast after 60 is not the sugary cereal of our childhoods and not the empty pastry of our commuting years. It needs protein, an egg, a piece of fish, a small bowl of oats stirred with nuts. It needs slow fiber, a piece of fruit, a spoon of oats, a handful of berries. It needs healthy fat, a small piece of avocado, a spoon of olive oil, a scattering of almonds. This kind of morning meal steadies blood sugar for hours, which steadies energy, which steadies mood, which steadies the entire day. Researchers at Harvard have observed that older adults who eat a protein-forward breakfast preserve their muscle mass measurably better than those who skip the morning meal or fill it with sugar. Muscle, as many doctors will tell you, is the currency of independence after 70. Every pound of it you keep is a pound of freedom. I remember a man named Anselmo Reyes, 69, a retired mechanic from El Paso, who had lived for years on toast and coffee and had begun to feel the muscle leaving his arms. He changed his breakfast: 2 eggs, half an avocado, a small handful of berries, and did nothing else different for 6 months. His grip strength, measured by his doctor, came back. A grandfather who had begun refusing to lift his grandchildren was lifting them again by Christmas. One person's results are not a guarantee, but the direction of the story is honest. The aphorism, breakfast is the promise the day keeps. Ritual 5. Speak to someone before the morning is over. The principle in one plain sentence. Loneliness in the morning is different from loneliness at any other hour, and it does more damage than most of us realize. What the body needs, and yes, the body, not only the heart, is a human voice inside its first waking hours. A short phone call to a son or daughter, a conversation with a neighbor, a greeting at the coffee counter, even a small exchange with a stranger at the checkout. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have published studies suggesting that chronic morning isolation is associated with higher levels of inflammation, poorer cognitive performance, and a measurably higher risk of depression in older adults. This is not soft advice. This is hard biology. I sat with a woman named Frances Doherty, 76, a retired nurse from Buffalo, who lived alone after her husband passed. Her mornings had gone silent. No radio, no phone calls, no voices. She began a small ritual. Every morning by 9, she would call her sister 3 states away for no more than 10 minutes, just to say good morning, just to say, I am here and so are you. Her doctor, who had been watching her slip into a soft depression, told me 6 months later he no longer worried about her the way he had. One phone call, 10 minutes. That was the medicine, the aphorism, and please write this one down. A voice in the morning is a hand across a distance. Ritual 6. Sit quietly for a few minutes with your own mind. The principle. Your mind, after 60, needs a small window of stillness before the world begins asking things of it. Not meditation if that word feels foreign to you. Not chanting. Not sitting cross-legged on a floor. Simply this, 5 to 10 minutes of stillness in a chair with a cup of tea or a hand on your lap. Before the television goes on, before the phone begins its noise, before the newspaper hands you the day's alarms. Breathe slowly. Notice your breath. Notice the room. Notice that you are still here, on this side of the morning, which is not a small thing at all. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic have observed that older adults who practice even brief morning stillness show lower resting blood pressure, better emotional regulation, and, over years, measurable protection against cognitive decline. The nervous system, worn thin by decades of noise, is quietly grateful for a few unhurried minutes. I think of Walter Kimura, 84, a retired accountant from Portland, who told me he had never sat still with his own thoughts in 80 years and was afraid of what he might find there. He began with 3 minutes, just 3, sitting in his kitchen chair with his tea, looking at the light on the wall. Within a month, he was up to 10. He told me quietly that the noise inside his own head had gotten kinder to him. I believe it did. I believe stillness teaches the mind manners it forgot in the middle of a busy life. The aphorism, the mind that is given quiet returns kindness. Ritual 7. Set one small intention before the day takes you. The principle in one plain sentence. A life after 60 is not aimless unless we let it become aimless, and a single small intention in the morning is what keeps aim in the day. Not a resolution, not a project. One small, achievable human intention. Today I will call my grandson. Today I will walk to the mailbox. Today I will finish the letter I started on Tuesday. Today I will smile at the woman who runs the bakery. One small aim, spoken aloud or written on a scrap of paper, so that when night comes you can say, honestly, I did the thing I meant to do today. That is one of the deep, quiet medicines of aging with dignity. Researchers at the National Institute on Aging have followed older adults who report a clear daily sense of purpose and have observed measurably lower rates of cognitive decline, cardiovascular events, and early mortality among them. Purpose, in this research, is not a mountain. It is a foothold. It is the small daily place where your feet know where to go. The aphorism, and this is the last one I will give you. A day with an aim is a day with a shape. I want to stop the teaching now and speak only to you. Yes, you. Sitting there tonight, wherever you are, in your chair, in your kitchen, in your bed perhaps, with the lamp low. I am not talking to a room full of people right now. I am talking to one person, and that person is you, because I know something about this hour. I know that videos like this one tend to find people when they are quiet, and when they are quiet, they are often honest with themselves. So let me ask you honestly, which of those 7 landed on you the hardest? Which one made you look away from the screen for a second because you knew? That is the one to begin with tomorrow. Not all 7. Just that one. If these words found you at the right hour, if you feel even faintly that this was meant to reach you tonight, leave the word hope in the comments below. I read them. I always do. And when I see that word from you, I will know that this quiet talk did what I meant for it to do. I have watched what these 7 rituals do to a heart. Let me tell you what I have seen. I have seen hearts grow steadier. Not younger, no one grows younger, but steadier. Blood pressures softening, pulses evening out, chest pains fading, doctors surprised at their own numbers. That is what light and water and gentle morning movement do over months to a heart that has been asking for kindness. I have seen minds grow clearer, names returning that had begun to slip, words coming back to the tips of tongues, conversations lasting longer without the fog rolling in. The mornings of stillness, the mornings of protein, the mornings of a phone call, they add up to a mind that stays home in itself longer than we thought it would. I have seen spirits lift. Real spirits. The lightness that comes back into a room 070 remembers that they still have somewhere to place their aim. Depression's loosening. Loneliness thinning. A quiet dignity coming back to a face that had for a season forgotten it. And I have seen energy, real honest energy, return to people who had been told they should not expect it back. Not the sprinting energy of 30, the deep, useful, patient energy of a well-tended life after 60. Enough energy to walk to the mailbox, enough energy to lift a grandchild. Enough energy to sit at the table for a long dinner and be unmistakably present. That is the compound return on 7 small mornings. That is what I have watched for 20 years with my own 2 eyes. So here from me to you is what I would ask of the next 5 mornings. Not all 7 at once, please. Not all 7. That is how good intentions die. Instead, the first morning, do only ritual 1. Open the curtain before you do anything else. Sit near the light for a few minutes. Because a day begun in light is a day begun on the right side of your own biology. The second morning, add ritual 2. A glass of water, plain and unhurried, before your coffee. Because your body has been in a small desert all night, and it deserves to be met with kindness. The third morning, add ritual 3. 10 gentle minutes of movement beside your bed. Not exercise, reminder. Because a body that is asked answers. The fourth morning, add ritual 4. A breakfast with protein, fiber, and a healthy fat. Because the morning meal is the promise the rest of the day keeps. The fifth morning, add one of the last 3, ritual 5, 6, or 7, whichever your heart pulled toward hardest tonight. A voice, a stillness, or an intention. Because the body is only half of this. The other half is what makes the body worth carrying at all. 5 nights, 5 small assignments. That is all I am asking. If, on the 6th morning, you find yourself already doing what I asked without thinking about it, then, and only then, add the others, slowly, patiently. The way anything worth keeping is added to a life. Before I let you go tonight, there is one more thing I want to say to you. If I could only ever say one more thing on this channel, on this evening, on this side of the microphone, it would be this. Aging is not something that happens to you. Aging is how you answer what is happening to you. That is the whole of it. That is what 20 years of kitchen tables, 20 years of hospital rooms, 20 years of quiet mornings with older men and older women have taught me. The people who age with grace are not the people with the best cards. They are the people who play their cards every morning with a little bit of care. And so please, hear me on this one last time, because I mean it as more than a phrase. It is never too late. It was never too late for Margaret with her curtain, or Harold with his glass of water, or Doris with her waking, or Anselmo with his eggs, or Francis with her phone call, or Walter with his stillness, or the countless others whose names I have not spoken tonight. It is not too late for you, not tomorrow morning, not the morning after that. It is never too late, so long as there is still one morning ahead of you. And there is one waiting for you right now, on the other side of this night. If this evening's talk sat well with you, if you feel, in some quiet way, that we sat together for a little while, I would ask you 3 small kindnesses, and only these. Press the like button so this reaches another person who is sitting alone in their chair tonight, worrying the same worry you were worrying an hour ago. Subscribe, if you have not already, and tap the little bell beside it so that we can sit together again on another evening like this one. And leave me the word hope in the comments below so that I know this letter reached its person. Then close your screen, turn out the lamp, let the house be quiet. Sleep well tonight, my friend, deeply, without hurry, without fear. And when the morning comes, open the curtain first. Let the light in before anything else. Drink your glass of water slowly. Move gently. Eat well. Speak to someone. Sit quietly for a few minutes with your own good mind, and set one small aim for your day. You have more mornings ahead of you than you think, and each one of them is still yours. Peace to you tonight. Rest well. I will see you at the next fire.